As I stand before you today, I am confounded by the existence of such modern communication methods as have been explained to me. Internet? Texting? Social media? Such ignorance. I can certainly tell you how it was done in my day. I'm Abigail Adams, married to the extraordinary John Adams, whom you may know as the second President of these United States of America. Since it pertains to the subject, I will tell you that my husband and I spent many long years separated by many miles. Writing letters was our only source of communication. My childhood was filled with a plethora of opportunities unique to my time that enabled me to communicate with John in this way. I was born to loving parents, the Reverend William and Elizabeth Quincy Smith, on October 11th, 1744, near Boston, Massachusetts. I grew up on a wonderful farm in the countryside. I can still remember the smell of the crisp apples on the trees that I enjoyed climbing as a young girl. I recall the little piglets playing in their oakwood pen. Oh my, I've gone off on a little rabbit trail. Apologies, dear friends. Let me continue to the story. Growing up, I loved to read. I was also very intelligent and excessively outspoken. Because my schools of my day were adverse towards teaching women, my parents diligently took up the responsibility and taught me everything I know. Brazenly, my father introduced me to politics, while my mother taught me how to be an excellent wife and attentive mother. By listening to the stories of the many visitors who would stop by my family home and church, I also learned many things about the wider world. Life became busier and fuller. My mother could not fathom the idea of my loose and unruly tongue, since she thought of it as unladylike. Loving this trait in me, however, my father and grandmother deliberately cultivated it in me because they were of the mind that I could influence many people with my well-educated thoughts and ideas. They were indeed correct. My grandmother always encouraged me with these words: "Wild colts make the best horses." Life seemed full of possibilities for this humble minister's daughter. As I grew into a young lady, the time came for me to find a suitable match. My beauty and virtuous character won over many suitors. One such eligible bachelor was a young lawyer whose name was John Adams. Now, because he spoke to me about critical and engaging topics, I enjoyed spending many evenings in John's company. Arguing often, we did not always see eye to eye about how the world should function. Despite this, our friendship soon grew into love. It was most remarkable. Frustratingly, though, in the beginning, my parents did not completely approve of Adams because he had been raised on a farm, which was ironic because of my own upbringing, but a concern of theirs nonetheless. Thankfully, however, when I was 20 and Adams was 29, my parents changed their minds and allowed us to become engaged. We were joyously married on October 5th, 1764. This beautiful young woman whom you see before you today had met her match for life. During our marriage, the many letters that I exchanged with John were the highlight of our relationship and the motivation that kept his feet moving and his hands working. My strong opinions, wonderful ideas, and counsels seemed to be an encouragement to him as he faced the troublesome turmoil of life as a lawyer and senior statesman. One of the most famous pieces of advice to graze the pages of our letters was my exhortation that John remember the ladies and be more generous to them than your ancestors. I believe particularly that women should have more power over their lives. After the Revolutionary War was won, John was asked to sail to France to help draft the peace treaty between the United States and our former enemies, Great Britain. He was away 5 years. Such a long time. Can you imagine not seeing a loved one for 5 whole years? This distance and the time apart inspired and increased diligence in our writing. Since I was John's most trusted confidant, the correspondence that I maintained during the time and also throughout his presidency were his greatest comfort, not to mention his eyes and ears. My childhood as an educated minister's daughter was full of bright opportunities. Providentially, I discovered a splendid match in John Adams, and we enjoyed a long, contented marriage. Life was exceedingly full. My letters to John during the Revolutionary War, our long years of separation, and during his presidency were his greatest asset and encouragement. My letters also served as his eyes and ears on the nation. Most importantly, I became known as a faithful and excellent wife because of my loving dedication and influence throughout many difficult times and across many miles. So, children, I encourage you to dispense of modern devices and lesser communication methods and pick up your own pens. I set a high standard, and it served me, my husband, our posterity, and our nation well.